My name is Stephen Katz. I'm the North American Director with Jews for Jesus. So my dad's side of the family is Orthodox, meaning a more serious observance of Judaism, kosher home, all of that kind of thing. My mom's side was secular Jewish, and my parents raised me in a conservative synagogue, which is the middle branch of Judaism. We take it seriously, but we're modern at the same time. So I went to Hebrew school several times a week, Sunday school, bar mitzvah at the age of 13, confirmation at the age of 15, 16, something like that. But by the time I got to near the end of high school, to be honest, being Jewish was something I was fine, but it wasn't the most compelling force in my life. It just was who I was. And I really began to ask questions. What is the meaning of life? My Orthodox grandmother died when I was 17, and she and I were very close, and I thought a lot about life, death, what gives life meaning? Is it making a lot of money? Is it partying with friends? And none of that seemed to be the answer. And I concluded life has no meaning. Whatever we do with it, we do with it. So I went off to college at the University of Illinois. I was planning to quit school even before I got there. I was going to be the next Bob Dylan. But in my first semester, I had a Jewish professor for a writing course, and he assigned us to do a major paper that would be the bulk of our grade. And when he met with us, a handful, in his office to see the progress on our paper, I let him know I hadn't chosen a subject, and he said, he knew me, he said, all right, you just wait, I'll talk to the other students, we'll figure it out. While he was talking to them, this thought entered my mind, and it was nothing I had thought of before. It captured my attention. I interrupted him. I said, hey, you know what? I know what I'm going to write on. I'm going to write on why the Jews at the time of Jesus didn't believe he was the Messiah. Just like that. I had to see, what did the Jewish people in the first century expect? Why didn't they think Jesus fit that portrait? So I got a Bible. Actually, I stole my first Bible from a hotel. I didn't know the Gideons want you to steal it, so whatever. I stole it to get lyrics for songs. I was going to be Dylan, remember? So Dylan used a lot of biblical imagery. I thought I should get familiar with this book. I had to see, what did our sages, the prophets, the rabbis, what passages did they say were about the Messiah? And why didn't they think Jesus fulfilled them? Why didn't they fit? I had loads of questions. So I got, for the research, I read books from Jewish writers, Christian writers, secular historians that compared ancient Middle Eastern manuscripts, and all of that just gave me more questions. So I made appointments to interview 4 clergy guys, 2 rabbis and 2 Christian pastors, each one at a time. They each tried to be helpful in their own way, and I really began to struggle at this point. I began to lean in the direction this thing might be true. But the way I grew up, we don't grow up with the Jesus story. In fact, there's this invisible line in the sand that we all know. We just don't cross that line. Jews don't believe in Jesus. So I finished my paper. I quit school for a little while. And several months later, my girlfriend came over one day and she said, hey, guess what happened? Jesus and I got together last night. She told me later she was trying to not sound too religious, didn't want to freak me out, didn't want to upset me. And I said, okay, whatever, if that makes you happy. Well, I began to see changes in her life, good changes. I'd known her since we were 11 years old. And I began to pray when I was alone. I didn't know it was prayer, but I began to say, if there's a God out there, show me. If this is true about Jesus, I'm willing to find out. Actually, I got to the place where I knew it was true. And I just had to get over my cultural baggage, my emotional fears. What would my parents do? What will they say? How can I take this step? And I did that. And I prayed to receive Jesus as my Messiah and Savior and Lord. And here I am, working with Jews for Jesus. My name is Stephen Katz. I'm Jewish and I love Jesus.